All right, my peeps. Let's jump right in, breaking down two of the 1,000 books that I've written over the last 30 plus years. No particular order. We're just going through these books. I want to highlight a few of them. Obviously, there's no way I can go through all, 1,000 of the books that's included, inside of this $1,000 offer that I have. But I want to highlight, we're going to go through about 30 or 40 of them over the next, 20 or 30 days, just to bring your attention to some of the deeper esoteric information that I've, by the grace and mercy of the Big G, been able to under and understand. Today, we're talking about walking in the spirit, not the signal, as well as electronic demonic possession. These were two books that I wrote way back in the day. I was looking at the date, the copyright dates on some of these books, and yeah, it's been a while, but it's important that we understand ELFs, EMFs, extreme low frequencies, electrical magnetic frequencies, the frequency cage that captures your aura, keeps you trapped. As we delve into electronic demonic possession in the SSSS, silent sound spread spectrum, everything that's going on today with artificial intelligence, AI, hypnotic circles, flashing lights, the stuff that we see through repetition, through brainwave entrainment, through our diet, through nutrition. All of this is a part of being able to break down and disembody intelligence, so that way it can weaken your aura, your chi, your spiritual discernment, to access your gates, your spiritual gate. This is called psychotronic mnemonics. So it's a memory-based weapon. I break this down inside of the book Electronic Demonic Possession, The New Age of Influence. And the reason why this book is so important is because it's this invisible war that all of humanity is in. But most people, remember, these books that I'm highlighting today, both were written a good 20 years ago. So could you imagine the warfare, what is called the flicker rate, or the frames per second that accesses and opens you to psychic, electronic, demonic possession? 99.99% of the people, especially under the age of, let's say, about 30, due to AI, they are unknowingly to them, they are electronically, demonically possessed. It's easy to tell. Just take their cell phone. That's it. They can't live without it. You have to fight, because that's the architecture of control for the new system. So as we go through this, we want to really highlight. We'll start with electronic demonic possession. We're going to read just some of it, like I did in the last audio program that I did, where we broke down book 1, which was Diligence. We broke this book down. Today, let me flip my camera over. We're going to be revealing, explaining, illuminating, and simplifying this book right here, which is, again, Electronic Demonic Possession. Now, all of these books, brothers and sisters, are part of the 1,000. These are $1. Now, remember, this book right here by itself, if you're not part of the special, was $49. This is just a PDF document. There isn't an audio program, even though I did one. I may include it with the book. But the book is all, and it breaks down basically, and it asks the question, are you possessed electronically? And it's interesting because as we go through this, and as I talk to people, most people don't really understand how this process actually takes place, how they came to be in a space where their psychological and spiritual attention has been hijacked. They don't have the ability to pay attention. You see, attention is not free. You have to pay for it. You have to pay for attention. And so, again, I want to stress the importance of understanding. Again, this is just the outline of the book without going too much into detail, but by going through some of the chapters here. And it's extremely important that you understand this in forming. This is how you go in and form. This is how they, whoever they are, this is how they establish an electronic demonic possession. So this is the age of psychotronic warfare and mnemonics, or what is called memory wiping. The ability to wipe and restructure memory. A lot of people, childhood is not what they think because it's been wiped and restructured. So most people have a restructured memory. And so while the book also jumps into and talk about hypnotic circles, well, I break down inside the book the loops that traps your consciousness. So most people's consciousness have been trapped knowingly or unknowingly. We break this down. We talk about the silent sound spread spectrum. Again, I've mentioned that over the last 20 plus years. That's an old one. Just like chemtrails and just like HARP technology. All of this tech has been around for years. This one is a big one right here. The ELFs, extreme low frequencies, the EMFs, the frequency cage that creates how it's done and how it's created. Another powerful aspect or chapter inside of the book on electronic demonic possession is this book on melanin, magnetism, and hypersensitivity of what we call melanated people. So melanated people most unknowingly, there's a lot of information out now, but back in the day when I started, remember this was written a while back, most people were not aware of the, they call black body physics. And again, you can just Google this and just research this or just pick up the book and, or really get all of 1,000 books. This talks about how the delta state, how screens bypass your frontal lobe and it puts you into a hypnotic state. We talk about neurological hijacking, how attention, addiction, and the algorithmic enslavement that has taken place. Because again, that's what it's all about. It's all about, robbing you of your ability to pay attention. Because again, energy flows where attention goes. Now this is all common knowledge, but it's this algorithm that creates the addiction. So right now, everything is based upon on an algorithm. We all go to we all operate on a specific rhythm. We all go to a specific pace, if you will. That repetition creates that enslavement. We talk about in the book, break down the corporate veil. We all live in this world that's based upon corporations. Corporations run this planet, corpse. So it's just, again, organized corpse. That creates the veil of this Luciferian logic of total control. Then the chemical warfare that's based upon the destroying the planet. Psycho-cybernetics, or again, psycho-spiritual battlefield, the war on our children using cartoons, games, behavioral engineering. The flicker rate that I mentioned earlier, that's huge now because that's one of the technologies that's been developed by the dominant culture to keep you and little Susie and little Johnny underneath the hypnotic spell of the cosmic rotor. And again, this is all just another one of the books. This is book 2 and book 3 that we're breaking down today. That's a part of the 1,000 books for $1,000. Again, you want to pick this up. Anybody that purchased it today, I'm throwing in the Dear Canary report along with some one-on-one counseling. Again, anybody that makes the purchase today is January the 12th. Anyone who makes the purchase today gets some additional free gifts or some additional products that comes along with making that purchase today. I'll talk about the spirit of materialism here in chapter 14 of this new world order that we are in. And again, that's just some of the chapters that's included inside of the book because most people are unknowingly under the spell of this electronic demonic possession. And again, it continues. And the thing that blows me away is people don't know that we're in a vibrational war. It's been going on. Remember, this book was written almost 30 years ago. And then not only do I break down the problem, I break down the path to liberation. It's one thing to talk about the problem, but we also got to talk about the solution. So I really delve into the solution due to the hypnotic, because hypnotism has replaced logic. So most people are hypnotically, as I talked about, using frequencies, using flicker rates, using chemtrails, using all of the stuff that's been out. What's up, my brother, Dr. Khalif? What's up, my brother? And so we have to reclaim the mind. We've got to break this hypnotic circle, this hypnotic spell. Again, this is all part. This is just one of the 1,000 books that I've written over the last, really 50 years, but really going hardcore over the last 30 years. And as you guys know, all I've done, as a preacher and teacher for all these years, I just took all of my messages that I've done over the years and went over to Turbo Scribe and spread it with AI out. I remember before AI came out, I wrote, most of my stuff was already written because I was just using, way back in the day, I was using, Fiverr. And Fiverr, you just hired somebody in, some other country, and they was taking my audios and transcribing them. And then I had somebody else that I hired, and was paying them, like $1 an hour from these third world countries that was able to do. This was way back in the day, 30 years ago, before tech came out. That's how I've been able to produce and publish so many books. So it's not that it's difficult, it's just that, again, people perish for lack of knowledge. So when you understand that we got to recalibrate your aura, detoxing from these frequencies and rebuilding, which gets into what Dr. Khalif does. So I know my buddy Dr. Khalif know what I'm talking about because he does some of the same thing. Him and my brother Dr. Mwanga, they have this thing that you, brother and Dr. Khalif, I don't know all the details of it, but I know that you do a lot of detoxification stuff as well, not only with the COVID-19 stuff and all of the vaccine stuff, but all of this stuff, we got to detox, we got to get this stuff out of the body to rebuild sovereignty. Then I talk about the melanin advantage. We know that melanin man, black, for the people that don't know what melanin is, melanin gives you a super advantage when you over, under, and understanding black body physics. It's not good, it's not bad. That's just the way the big G source thankfully designed us. When you understand that you can turn your sensitivity into a superpower. Right now, melanin has actually been used against most melanated people because if you drink alcohol, if you overindulge in sugar, if you overindulge in sex, it just amplifies it. But remember, melanin is an amplifier. So once you understand the advantage, you use it as a superpower. Then we get into diagnosing the soul, seeing the code behind the illusion. Chapter 20 breaks down the return of the inner authority, becoming immune to manipulation. Man, when you walk in the spirit, I'm not talking about no religious BS, man. You all guys, y'all know that, man. That this is we're not doing that. That's basic entry level stuff. We talking about advanced, not only exo but esoteric informing, where we know that the kingdom of God is within. So we know how to elevate our consciousness because again, that's where the battleground is at. So again, this war that's being waged, brothers and sisters, it's not by it's not by bullets and bombs and borders. This battlefield is frequencies, it's waves, vibrations, images, it's signals and suggestions. That's the battlefield, man. That's what's going on. There's a war going on for your attention, for your perception, for your imagination, for your identity, for your mind. Because most of us, man, we walk around, we got an identity crisis. We really don't understand how extremely powerful we are. Especially us melanated folk, but the dominant culture does. They want to make sure that they keep you in that old slave Willie Lynch mentality where, me, my foe, and no more, where you broke, busted, and disgusted, and you're happy being unhappy because you really don't believe that what you really want is available. There's people that I talk to every day, man, they really don't believe. Dr. Khalif, they really don't believe, they don't understand that the world is the results of their words. And we create our world based upon our words. I'm living proof. I came from Podunk, Texas. And I've built for the last 30 years, been doing it, especially for the last 20 years, full time. All my income comes from my ability to put my words in a particular order to provoke and invoke a particular response. That's called an incantation. So this incantation creates an incarnation, which results in an incarceration. So you are in a vibrational prison of your own creation. So your job is to understand, okay, how do I put my words in a particular order to provoke and invoke a particular response? Since life and death is in the power of my tongue, since it's done unto me as I believe, since if I ask, believing that I've already received what I'm asking for according to the script, then the thing that I'm asking for I already got. So that means I need to live in a mental disposition where I already have the thing that I'm seeking. Now, that's the first book that we're talking about today. Remember, this is book 2 and 3 that we're introducing of the 1,000. Second book that we want to talk about today, and again, I know I ran through it, man. I was going to, play a little bit of other stuff, but I don't want it to be. I want to make sure that you over and understand that information is not it. This is not about information. Transformation is what we're talking about. There's a lot of information, but the transformation comes from when you embody the intelligence that's inside of this information. So, in order to break the spell, you have to expose your brain to the mechanics, the quantum mechanics of quarks, quinons, and muons, what we call a quantum. That's the space between the zeros and the ones. That just simply means that the dominant culture understands digital entities. And I talked about that we're in a digital war now. It used to be analog, but now it's digital. Because remember, data controls matter or mass. And so now we gotta understand that once you realize that we're dealing with an ancient frequency, wave, reverberant vibration that we call demons. But the possession that is taking place is a digital, it is an algorithmic spirit. This is what electronic demonic possession is. This is the new age of influence. This is the age where electronic demonic possession is a mimic. It's a mem. It's a memory. So it attacks you by attacking your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior using frequencies in the form of an algorithm. It is this digital algorithm. So it's finding users who jump online. It weakens your attention span. That's why TikTok has this 15 second or less. 15 seconds now is the average attention span. 15 seconds. They're reducing it down because digital possession is nothing but a weakened attention span. These young folks right now, man, they can't. And I understand that's a lot of old folks. Same boat. Don't have the ability to pay attention. And so the ability for me to influence, the dominant culture to influence your thoughts, your emotions, your behavior by making sure that you can't pay attention. And so what happens, you get into this false dopamine because every time you scroll, you get a hit, that dopamine, but it's fake. So you don't have the ability to delve into, so the addiction, we get addicted to the algorithm. We get addicted to scrolling. So addiction is the new possession. So we're addicted to an algorithm, but we don't know it. We don't understand that the human mind, when it's untrained, then it's susceptible to a foreign host. When the human mind is undisciplined, remember the Bible says a double-minded man will not receive jack. So you can't receive, this is cybernetics. This is psychotronics. This is electronic, but it's the psychology of electronics. So it's psychotronics. Psychology and tronics, psychology and electronics together creates mnemonics. There was a movie that came out that was called Mnemonics. That's how the electronic signals influence your ability to pay attention. And this book breaks all of this down by repetition, by flicker rate, how the light flickers on the screen, frequency entrainment, symbol imprinting. So when you see these symbols and these logos, these are sigils, these are signs, but the eyes is the gateway, and the brain picks up that frequency that's inside of the sigil, even though you don't. So signal and sigil imprinting, because each logo has an energy that's imprinted on your soul, which is the mind, the will, the emotion, the imagination, the intellect. So symbolic imprinting, sigil imprinting, trauma loop, trauma-based mind control. Remember MK Ultra and all this stuff. So you're getting exposed to traumatic events every day. What's going on right now with the ICE agents? What are we seeing on TV? We see a guy, people jumping out trucks, masked, they armored up, throwing people on the ground. Man, that's traumatic. What happens when you keep seeing that trauma and you can't do nothing about it? Learned helplessness. Now I got you. Because now you become desensitized. It's like everybody has PTSD because we're watching all of these traumatic events on TV every single day. What can you do about it? All I got to do, again, this is called programming. So in order for me to program you, I got to expose you. Exposure therapy. I'm going to expose you to a negative habit pattern. But the only way that it produces helplessness is if you feel like you can't do nothing about it. So of course they're going to show you something over in a foreign country or somewhere. What can you do about it? That creates a trauma loop. You bond with that trauma. That's your new identity. Now your identity is based upon your trauma. It's not based upon your gifts. It's not based upon your talents. It's not based upon your skills. You've been traumatically induced to establish and accept a new identity based upon the trauma that you've been seeing every day. So this is called trauma loops, trauma bonding. It destroys what is called the reward cycle, the dopamine system. You designed by source code to operate in a certain state. But once I put you in that hypnotic circle, it's a closed loop, so you can't get no new information in. That's mind control. That's brainwashing. So the way that they wash the brain is through stimulus that captures your focus. So that's what all this clickbait is all about. Because I got to stimulate you to capture your focus, to capture your discipline, and to capture your order. So you have no focus, you have no discipline, not you personally, but people you know. You have no focus, you have no discipline, and you have no order. So the brain enters into a trance-like state. According to all the science, I break it down inside the book. So once you get into the trance-like state, guess what happens? You return back to that trance through scrolling, binge watching, notification, checking everything, and ding on your phone. You're like, "Ooh, who is that?" That's that dopamine. That's the algorithmic rabbit trail. You're going through this rabbit trail. And let me before I move on, man. Actually, let me show you this too. So when you're going down this rabbit trail, now remember, this is all below the threshold of your consciousness. You have no idea that you just been mind F. You don't even know. You just scrolling, binge watching TV, you playing games, checking notifications. Now you're in this hypnotic circle. It's all engineered though. This is all engineered by the dominant culture. It increases compliance, it weakens your willpower. You got fragmented attention now. So now you can't pay attention. Then this induces emotional dependency. That makes you ripe for the silent sound spread spectrum. Oh man. And so remember, they pumping this out every day. My sister shared with me with this TikTok video, or I think it was TikTok, where they were showing what happened last night. There was these frequency bursts that started on the West Coast and then went to the East Coast. And it comes up on this Doppler radar thing. So it looks like weather, but it's not. Silent sound spread spectrum. It's this HARP technology. Most people don't really understand how this modulation works. Now, this gets into Sabrina Wallace's work, where she talks about why, WBAN and all this other frequency stuff that's going on. Now, remember, the average keep it on is too busy, man. They don't have time to pay attention. They on that treadmill for life, got to pay the light bill out. Trust me, bro, I understand. But what I'm expressing, exposing, explaining to you today is that we are all in a cage. It's a frequency cage to keep you from oscillating and vibrating on a higher level. So you can't connect with Source, God, Yahushua the HaMashiach, even if you want to. Because this is a biological frequency that keeps you trapped. And especially if you are a melanated individual, because again, you have the ability to amplify the electromagnetic field. You're designed by God for a deeper or higher level of amplification. It ain't bad, ain't good, it just is. So it's your job to understand that's your superpower. That's how you actually get out of the cage. But it's extremely important, brothers and sisters, that we all understand that each and every one of us, we are probably right now, myself included, to some degree under the spell of the cosmic grotto. That, my brothers and sisters, is the electronic demonic possession. Book number 2, which is book number 3. So book number 3, we're breaking down, I call it walking in the spirit, not the signal. So most of us are walking in the signal. We're not walking in the spirit. So when you understand that, just like the previous book, this continues breaking down the technological, psychological, spiritual war that you are in, where your thoughts, your emotions, and your identities are being shaped by frequencies, waves, and vibrations. This is a electrical magnetic environment that we're living in. So my job and your job is to walk in the spirit. But we've got to break it down. So in this book, I break down what the Bible talks about when it talks about walking in the spirit, so that way you cannot and you will not fulfill the lust of the flesh. So in this book, in chapter 2, we'll break this down really quickly. In chapter 2 of this book, it gets into how to implement the biblical text. Because we all know the scripture. But it's one thing to know it. Next thing we got to implement it. Again, it talks about the same thing that the electronic demonic possession talks about. The brain is not neutral. The brain is neuroplastic. It means that it's moldable based upon your attention and repetition. So you got to understand signal suggestions, how information becomes belief. They just pump out information. And this information that they pumping out influences you. So your job is to limit the information, whether it's true or not, that you do not want to manifest in your life. So your job is to be what? Like the Bible says, bring every thought into captivity. So in this book, it breaks down technology, psychology, and control. Down here in part 3, it breaks down biology, identity, and vulnerability. Now, man, that is huge. Why? Because 99.99% of the people that I talk to, they have an identity problem. They don't self-identify with source. They self-identify with behavior. You're not your behavior. You have behavior, but you're not your behavior. Big difference. That creates, again, and establishes your spiritual map, your spiritual language, your motivated abilities pattern. All of this is broken down. So I break this down inside of, again, the book that helps you understand that each and every one of us, we have a ruling disposition. Whether you overstand it or not, your job is to examine it, and if you don't like it, change it. And in this book, I break down how to recover and then how to transform, how to reclaim and get your attention back, how to silence the noise, how to tap into what we call nature, which is nurture, and how also to bring about a natural neurological set. And so when you understand that the war that nobody is talking about, that we are all in, is a vibrational war. It's an electrical war. It is how electricity and magnetism through pictures, through our food, through the music, through our language, how it affects our spirit. So the signal, we are walking in the signal. It's the invisible war that we are engaged in unknowingly, which takes us back to what we talked about previously, which is the electronic demonic possession. Both of these books are part of the 1,000 books for $1,000 because of the power that's inside of both of these books. Because once you understand that, okay, the first issue is realizing that we are actually in a war. And this war has been going on since the beginning of time because it's based upon the architecture of control. And they're using electronics to bring about demonic possession. And this is a psychotronic mnemonics. Memory is your weapon or their weapon. They put you inside of a hypnotic circle. These loops that we talked about earlier, which is the result of the SSSS or the solid sound spread spectrum. And they use extreme low frequencies, electrical magnetic frequencies, and the frequency cage that traps your chi, your prana, and your aura. And if you're melanin, you're in a worse predicament because it's an amplifier. But it amplifies whatever you focus on. So you focus on alcohol, if you focus on drugs, if you focus on negativity, bam, the melanin is going to amplify that and it's going to draw that because melanin is magnetic. It's magnetism. So that makes you a superhero or a hypersensitive individual. And it puts you into what is called the delta state. That screens and bypasses reasoning logic. It goes directly into the reticular activating system. So you are being neurologically hijacked. Your attention creates an addiction to an algorithm, which brings about enslavement. So it's the brainwave entrainment that leads to enslavement. That's how the Luciferian logic and total control system works. Then they add in all the chemical warfare with all the food, the water, the air, and everything. Everything is designed to do what? To put you in a psycho-spiritual box. The whole game is structured to keep you trapped in Groundhog Day, so that way you cannot connect with Source. And then that creates the digital possession loop. And these devices become your demons. These devices become your demons. Let me say it slow. These devices, they're great. The one I'm using right now, cell phone, all this stuff. What's up, Brother Fennell? What's up going on, my brother? These devices become our demons. So the new religion is tech. And this technology is the new battlefield. So the battlefield, again, is not with bullets and bombs, as I mentioned before, frequencies, images, signals, suggestions. And these are them. And this is how they get you. This is the battlefield. These are their weapons to keep you trapped inside of the illusion. So we got to go behind this illusion that is creating this confusion. And one of the biggest issues is the chemical desensitization and the digital flicker rate hypnosis. Because this technology behind it, you can't really see it. But it's the speed of the flicker rate that I talked about that brings about behavioral engineering through meditation or through the media. So these good old boys got a powerful system set up to keep you trapped in Groundhog Day. But the big G, Source, Yahushua the HaMashiach, got a better system. And that system, that better system, is what I break down inside of the second book that we're talking about today, which is book number 3. Sorry about that. Got a little friend flying around in there somewhere. And so that second book, again, as we wrap it up, is walking in the spirit, not the signal. So we got to get out of frequencies, waves, and vibrations that they created. And we got to get back into the frequency, wave, verb, and vibration that God created. And then we're able to rediscover and we're able to realign our mind with our God-given design. That's the true battlefield. The battle is for the mind. It's for the brain. So in this book, we start off talking about, again, neuroplasticity, attention, and repetition. That's how they get you. Going from signal to suggestion. Understand how information becomes belief. Most people don't really understand. You got to really pay attention to the information that you're absorbing. And they are bringing about this information through technology, psychology, which leads to control. And that gets into what we talked about earlier, silent sound, spread spectrum, and all that good stuff. Now, your job is to understand that, man, we are all vulnerable biologically because we don't control water, food systems, and all that good stuff. So we got to be aware of how they use that to put us into a state, especially if we are melanated. So we can understand how we process information differently. Then we got to walk into, the fact that the ancient text talks about consciousness, influence, temptation, desire, attention, biblical language through neuroscience, understanding symbols or cognitive technology. That's why every company has a logo. We got to get back into nature through understanding the gospel of peace. That's why they took that out. The Essene gospel of peace. The gospel of peace talks about nature. It talks about law. It talks about restoration and balance. It's talking about the earth. It talks about the biological law. So most people, we will destroy our biological temple because the body is the Bible and the Bible is the body. So if you want to get into the Bible, get into the body. I didn't say worship it. I'm just saying the way that you get to God is through the self, through the body. So you cannot disrespect your body and be a spiritual guru, contrary to popular belief. So nature is nurture. So the dominant culture know that. They know that they can keep us in a particular state, an oscillation state, where we are not effective because we're violating universal spiritual law. So in order to get to God, you got to go through the body. Because the body is going to be regenerated, it's going to be retransformed. Be ye transformed by the renewing of the mind. So screens create symbols that put you in a cognitive trance. So it is this visual rhythm that alters consciousness. So when we're watching these screens, whether it's a TV screen, whether it's this screen through your cell phone, whether it's another screen, when we watch this, when we look at the screen, our attention narrows, our time and our perception alters, and then it creates what is called a neurological analytical weakness. So we become weakened, as I mentioned earlier, in the electronic demonic possession book. So what's the key? Like, how do we get out? Well, in this book, I break down the solution. We get back into what I call nature, because nature and nurture. So when we talk about nature, we talk about nurture. Nurturing is what we call love. We talk about compassion. Do unto others as we would have them do unto us. That's the golden rule. So we have to, simplify it. We make it hard by coming with a bunch of rules and a bunch of regulations instead of treat your neighbor the way you want to be treated. We can always no debate. So whether you're a Muslim, whether you're a Buddhist, whether you're Baptist, see how simple it is, but we're not going to talk about that. We'll disrespect our neighbors, we'll disrespect family and friends, but we love God. It all starts, man. This is not rocket science, but we want to talk about non-issues. So when they asked Jesus this, remember Jesus says, "Hey, I can sum up the entire gospel. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might." The second law is like the first law. Love your neighbor as yourself. So the same way you love yourself, the same way you should love everyone else. But everybody skips over that, and we start talking about all this other stuff. All the other stuff is great, but you got to do first base first. We got to do the basics first. Then we can get into all of the high tech stuff. But we love to jump into sacred name movement and speaking in tongues and Paul and John and all these other stuff, and we forget the basic message. But the book really is about Yahushua the HaMashiach. It ain't about Paul, ain't about John, ain't about James. Although all those books are great, but it's very, very important that we don't miss the forest for the trees. So at the end of the day, brothers and sisters, your success really isn't based upon the color of your skin. Melanin is great, but it has nothing to do with skin pigmentation. It has nothing to do with your eye coloration. It has nothing to do with certain auditory and visual processes. It has nothing to do with your cellular structure and also that. All of those, although they contribute to your spiritual success, that's all secondary. Let's go with first base. First thing, love. Love your neighbor as yourself. So we walk around disrespecting people, but we love in God. So it's very, very important that we get the basics down first, and that's what the book talks about. It helps you to focus on starting with the most important issue, and that is the thing that affects your nervous system. So regardless of your pigmentation, your nervous system is going to respond to certain repetition, certain emotion, certain things. So from a cultural perspective, this all comes down to what we call community. That's why coming together in unity is so important. So we've got all of this division, but we are wondering why we don't have no spiritual advancement. It's because we got too much division. So I'm not really talking about cultural matters. I'm talking about spiritual matters. And so in order for us to get out of all of this electrical magnetic confusion is to limit the electrical magnetic reception from the perspective of putting more emphasis on personal relationships with people that's right in front of you instead of relationships with people that live in another country. Because anybody can log online and have friends in a whole other country and be a part of these groups because it's all online. It doesn't require you to meet somebody face to face and talk to someone and develop a personal relationship. So you got a better relationship with someone online that lives in another country than you do with your neighbor that you see every day. So we see a lot of people, especially with the advent of technology. So what it does is this is a way to weaken our ability to relate to each other, because we put in so much emphasis on these relationships that are intercontinental. So you know somebody over in Switzerland, you know somebody over in England, you know somebody. I got friends, I got Facebook people, you know, I got clients all over the world. But what about the clients in my own house? What about my neighbor that's right next door that I see every day? What about all of these people that we bump into when you go to the grocery store? So let me get this right. So you don't have no friends and no relationships with your family and your friends and your neighbors and people that you see every single day, but you're an online guru. You're a Facebook hero, but a real life zero. I mean, not you personally, but people you know. So when we really, really understand how electronic demonic possession works, it gets you into these electronic relationships. Why? Because you don't have to be real. You don't have to be authentic. You can be artificial. So the name of the game is artificial intelligence. It ain't new. We thinking it's computers. Nah, this is spiritual. It's been around. Artificial intelligence is just digitized now. Most people are artificial. Most people been fake. The internet didn't make you fake, bruh. You've been fake. I mean, not you personally. You've been disrespecting people that you see every day. But you got a relationship with somebody that you don't even know. Oh, y'all all Buddha, y'all DMing and emailing each other and y'all all Buddha. Why? Because y'all don't have to see each other. You really don't have to go deep. This is surface level knowledge. Number one issue, surface level. Number two, lack of pattern recognition. Number three, lack of authentic connection with source. The three issues that everyone has, not you of course, but them other folk. Not you, Brother Fennell. Number one, I see it every day. Oh man, people are like super spiritual. Ding, on the surface. Ask them the Greek or the Aramaic meaning of a scripture. Ask someone to explain Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. Ask them to break down John chapter 10. Was it 10? I think it's 10:10. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. Then it drops down a little bit, and the Word became flesh and started to dwell among men. Yeah. Have them break that down. So I have 1,000 books for $1,000. Why? Because most of the folk I talk to, we'll be breaking this one down here pretty soon. They can't do this. They can't use biology. They can't use your DNA and show you how this is now this and how this controls this. They don't even know what this is. The average other keep it out, they don't know what laminin is. Even though it's inside of the body. They don't know what cerebrospinal cord fluid is. Even though it goes around their skull. They don't know what the cross really means. Now, I'm not saying it didn't happen physically. But I'm saying it happens every day biologically. Do you understand the biological significance of the cross? Not you personally, but you know. So the average ought to keep it out. They can quote them, but they can't explain them. Surface. So the day of surface level Gnosis, oh, that's gone, bro. Because now everybody can go on ChatGPT and get surface level knowledge. I've been going deep for 30 years, bro. This ain't my first rodeo. So you need to understand the twin flames. That's two. Jesus is. I mean, not you personally, but you know. So once you understand the difference between that word and this word, oh, you have speed. Christos, Christian. What's the difference? Well, most people don't know. So again, the whole point of this book and every one of the 1,000 plus books that I have available is simply go to the website masterteacher33.com. Click on the link that says 1,000 for 1,000. So you can start to understand that all these books that I'm going through, the reason I'm going through these books, again, this is just a very, just going through the chapter outline. This is a very high level interview. But the point of is it to show you the significance of each one of the books. So that way you can see that this is just not information. Inside of the pages of these books is transformative information. So you can understand that words are like demons. They bring about possession through frequency and interpretation, which creates a reference to an external entity that invades the body based upon your perception. Because your perception creates your reality based upon the energy, or what we call an entity, but it's really an energy that you get from the definition. But who does all of this? Well, you do, because it's based upon the way that you interpret the words that you're reading. So if I can give you the wrong interpretation, I'm going to give you the word, but I'm going to give you the wrong definition or the wrong interpretation, then you're going to create the wrong world. You're going to create the wrong energy. You're going to create the wrong feeling, because the definition is a dead definition. The definition is going to create the feeling, but it's the wrong feeling. So you're going to get the wrong frequency, which is an entity, because an entity is an energy. And all of these contain energy. You get amped up or you get amped down based upon your interpretation of the words that you're using. So based upon your understanding of the words, see, right now I'm saying something, and it could be ticking you off. It could be turning you down. It should be turning you up. So all I'm doing is I'm spitting Gnosis right now. I'm just telling you, sharing with you the same thing that I have finally got to a space where I could over, under, and understand, which is words create worlds. Go figure, that's in the Bible too. But the way that we interpret, words create worlds. So what did I just say? What does that mean to you? So you're supposed to walk in the Spirit. So if you walk in the Spirit, you cannot fulfill the lust of the flesh. So if you're fulfilling the lust of the flesh, that means that you're not walking in the Spirit. That's what the word says. So, but how do we implement it? So I'll break that down inside the book, Walking in the Spirit, not the signal. Because most people are walking in a man-made signal instead of a God-made spirit. Because a spirit is a group of related thoughts that create a ruling disposition that leads you in the direction of your God-given destiny and diakonia. So my brothers and my sisters, regardless of where you are in this big wide world, regardless of your level of awareness, remember you want to pick up all of these 1,000 books. This is a very, very limited time offer. Once I meet that magic number of the number of, because remember, this is, going back up the top, this is a steal. So I'm giving you each one of my books that I've labored over, spent me 30 years creating. I'm giving you all 1,000 books for $1 each. But they're a package deal. 1,000 books for $1,000 by simply going to the website, masterteacher30.com. Click on the link there that says donation, make the one-time payment. Or we can do 2 payments, half now and half in 30 days, if that's more convenient. Man, I love you. I appreciate you, Brother Fennell, my brother. Appreciate you, Brother Fennell, for tuning in, my man. I appreciate you, my brother. Everybody else, thank you for tuning in as well. We'll see you later on today or mañana. God bless.